If you aren't somebody who's taken psychology or attended medical school, you have most likely put together your knowledge of mental health from books, TV shows, or movies. Sure, it might seem like the illnesses on TV are accurate, but most media portrayals are negative, stereotypical, or just plain wrong. Characters that suffer from psychological disorders are often made to be incompetent, sad, lonely, or unusual, and most of the time, the subject of a dramatic romance. These portrayals create a barrier between them and us. Half of the media has created a stigma around mental illness while the other romanticizes it. Although they are two polar opposites, they come hand in hand when we talk about mental health. Now that we know the two key problems surrounding the mind and media, let's get into the video, where we will discuss how media affects the brain, along with the positive and negative effects it has on today's youth and future generations. What is stigmatization? Stigma is created when a person is viewed as an other. They are often denied social acceptance, making them outcasts. Romanticization, on the other hand, describes something as an idealized or unrealistic manner. When you romanticize something, you are making it seem better or more appealing than it really is. When it comes to romanticism, there is no better place to go than our good friend Tumblr. While it is perfectly fine to idolize someone, there is a certain group of people on the internet who are praising all the wrong people. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. Two very well-known names in the true crime community. You may be wondering what true crime has to do with mental health, but just wait, it'll all make sense soon. There are people who fantasize about going on dates with these people. There are people who make fan art of them, drawing them with innocent eyes and happy smiles. They are nothing but two young men who did something bad as a cry for help. While there is a long list of criminals with prison groupies and fangirls, these two are the first that come to mind. If you are familiar with the names Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, it is probably because they were the Columbine school shooters. Not exactly a nice thing to be known for, right? Well, there are people in the true crime community that just don't care. They idolize the boys as if they were characters from a movie. They love them because they are lost and feel as if they had gotten the chance to meet them, they could have saved them. This is a toxic mindset that completely bypasses the horror these two boys put people through. We know it is important to see the good in people, but you can't dismiss their wrongdoings. Romanticizing mental illnesses make it seem like all your psychological issues can just go away with a little tough love and care, but sadly that is not the case. You cannot cure mental illness. If it was that simple, nobody would be suffering from them. A savior complex may seem like a good thing, but when you look at the motivation and impact it has on others, it is easy for it to become problematic. According to the blog People Skills Decoded, the savior complex can be classified as a psychological construct which makes a person feel they need to save others. This person has a strong tendency to seek people who desperately need help and to assist them, often sacrificing their own needs for these people. You are not responsible for other people's actions or emotions. You cannot be everyone's savior. The notion that mental illnesses are romantic or quirky needs to stop. Now for the serious side of romanticization and how it impacts its viewers. Giving criminals more time in the spotlight will result in impressionable viewers acting out to get attention. Young people love to say, if they can do it, why can't I? So if they see that drastic actions get you copious amounts of attention, they're going to do it. We can't forget about copycat crimes. It's not only the true crime community that is guilty for romanticizing mental illnesses or mood and behavioral issues. This is a problem spread across every social media platform, but it is much easier to see the effect it has on people on Tumblr, as it is virtually unavoidable. You can't log into Tumblr anymore without seeing black and white photos of razor blades and mascara tears, degrading words written in bathroom stalls, girls sitting and crying with self-harm scars all over their bodies. Mental illness and low self-esteem are terrible things. However, it seems that while we are attempting to destigmatize them, we have begun to romanticize them, and that isn't helping anybody. Notice how a character in a TV show, novel, or movie is practically perfect except for their one little quirk? We have to remember that somebody's mental illness follows them wherever they go. It is with them when they wake up in the morning and go to bed at night. In short, mental illness is not beautiful. Having a mental illness does not make you cute, quirky, or more relatable. Of course, somebody with a mental illness can be beautiful, but the illness itself can be tortured. A person's biggest insecurity or struggle should not be gaining them likes and retweets. People are coming to terms with the fact that social media isn't so great for mental health. Others may think that getting on it will give them a spur of confidence, because on the internet, you can be whoever you want. You aren't being held back by the things that you struggle with in your daily life, but depending on how you spend your time on it, you may feel worse after using. Plenty of studies have shown correlations between the higher amounts of social media use and poor mental health, including depression, anxiety, feelings of loneliness and isolation, low self-esteem, and even suicidal thoughts. Most of you are probably familiar with the Netflix series 13 Reasons Why. It follows the story of Hannah Baker, a young woman that takes her own life. Throughout the season, a series of tapes are found, 13 cassette tapes for 13 people who she feels are responsible for her death. While some debate that this show is spreading awareness and is teaching viewers how suicide affects the people around them, others see it as disrespectful and problematic. Let's talk about what 13 Reasons Why is doing wrong. Number 1. It seems like Hannah Baker's suicide is a plot for revenge and is planned out way too much. As Dr. John Ackerman writes in a blog post, it is unrealistic for someone, especially a teenager in the midst of an emotional crisis, to construct an elaborate series of tapes, all the while maintaining a sarcastic, witty, and glib tone toward people she blames for her decision to end her life. Number 2. In no way does the show help prevent suicide. Over everything, the show lives by the saying, kids can be cruel, and it shows the effect teenagers can have on each other when treated poorly. The show also makes it seem as if bullying and trauma always ends in suicide, which is not true. Among 15 to 24-year-olds, 8% of bullying victims have made a serious attempt at suicide. The series has a large enough platform to highlight the ways to help stop bullying or how to deal with trauma, but they stick to the dark and gloomy side of the spectrum and includes the graphic, spine-chilling scene of Hannah Baker's suicide, which is unsuitable for its viewers suffering with depression and suicidal thoughts. Number 3. Viewers have described the series as the ultimate fantasy of teen suicidal ideation. Meaning, they want to kill themselves but they don't want to die. They want to kill themselves but don't want to miss out on what could happen in the future or cause their family pain and grief. Hannah's life cannot be changed by her death, and because she takes her own life, she doesn't get to find out the end of her story. Once you have taken your own life, you don't get to watch the people around you and see how they react. It is important to remind teenagers that this is not how it works in real life. Alright, so we have talked about romanticization. Now let's move on to stigma, which is the total opposite. Dealing with your mental health online is entirely different than in real life. Often we shun or avoid the quiet and shy kids that sit alone every day at lunch. When we meet a kid that acts out in class or tells off the teachers, they're ignorant and immature. These are most often the ones that actually suffer from anxiety and depression. These people are the ones that struggle with their mood and behavior. Why is it so normalized on the internet but so socially unaccepted in the real world? Because that's exactly what stigma is. It is something that makes us feel uncomfortable. It's something that we don't know how to deal with. But it's easy to end the stigma around mental illness. Educate yourself. Accept those who are struggling with their mental health. Their illness doesn't define them. Teach kids that having a mental illness doesn't make you an outcast. 1 in 4 people in the world are affected by mental or neurological disorders at some point in their lives. Over 450 million people are dealing with diagnosed mental illnesses. Media may have concerning features, but it does have some positive attributes. If somebody is too scared or shy to talk about their emotions face to face, there is always going to be somebody on social media that is willing to listen. If you have a hard time making friends, you will have an unlimited amount of fish in the big sea of social media users. The internet can be home to many insecurities, bullying, and constant comparisons, but it can also be an escape. How can we help the future generations, our youth, and our minds from the toxicity of social media's influence on mental health? Start by trying to clean out your news feed. Out of sight, out of mind, right? Block and report pages that post graphic content involving depression or anxiety. Don't support brands that profit off of mental illness. Watch what you post on the internet. Post positive and hopeful content. In conclusion, mental illness should not be seen as a quirky trait. It is not for authors and screenwriters to glamorize. It isn't a black and white photo with poetic lyrics on Tumblr. We are living in a world that idolizes mental illness and encourages self-harm. There are people that are self-diagnosing themselves with life-altering diseases because it seems trendy to be seen as somebody with a sad soul. The internet is here, and it is time to spread love and positivity instead of possibly triggering content. Stop the romanticizing and the beautifying. It is time we shed some light on how painful having a mental illness really is.